to have you on the program today, The Balance on G247 TV. And this is Africa's most reliable personality channel. From the KUSEME to the IDIONG, Kuseme Idiong is my name on the anchor. Today we will be speaking with a very wonderful gentleman all the way from Lagos. But before then, we'll go on a quick break, and when I'm back, I will introduce my guest for the program today. Stay tuned and go nowhere.
Arkan Weeks Ministry presents Open Door Service, a 60 minutes with the Prophet, every Monday, 6:15 a.m. to 7:15 a.m. Nigerian time, starting December 2020. It will be your time of deep revelation, prayers, prophecies, breakthrough, and release of blessings.
Every program of shame, every program of sorrow from the pit of hell, from witchcraft covenant, from the marine kingdom, every arrangement to cause me sorrow, scatter by fire. Clap your hand and pray.
Live on Facebook at Arkan Weeks Ministries. Don't miss it. Tell someone today. For inquiries, call 0906 1556 893. Jesus is Lord.
We worship your majesty.
Alright, it's so good to be back on G247 TV, and the program you are watching is called The Balance. The Balance is a program poised at addressing topical leadership issues in the society, maybe in education, the oil and gas, which we will be talking about today. And this is one program that reach out to the least and last in the world. And today, like I said, I have a very wonderful gentleman in the studio with me. He is a doctor, an academic doctor, and also an oil and gas consultant. This reverend gentleman is currently fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Engineers, just inducted, just conferred into that great body, and also member Chartered Institute of Engineering UK. It's my pleasure to bring on the program Dr. Wisdom Enang to the program.
Thank you very much.
So good to have you.
Very good to have you as well.
And let's begin by who is Wisdom Enang?
Okay, so Wisdom Enang is an oil and gas enthusiast, someone who is very passionate about energy exploitation in a very efficient way and in a way that adds value. That's the kind of person you're looking at. I'm also someone that is very passionate about making a difference. So whether it is taking myself as an example in my exploitations to set example of what things should look like, I do take those opportunities. So that's the way I like to consider myself, a pace setter, trying to see what can I do to create a guideline as to what others should follow.
Okay, let's get to talk about, for a layman, what is that energy exploitation?
So, energy exploitation is just simply harnessing. So, energy already exists. Okay. So, whether you're talking about geothermal energy in the ground, in terms of maybe crude oil or whatever, they exist. Petroleum energy, they exist already. What we are simply doing is we're tapping the raw energy that exists and bringing it out and transforming it to what we want. Energy is never created nor destroyed. It's transformed from one form to another to be able to do some form of value-added work for us. So that's what we're trying to do. So exploitation of energy is simply an efficient way to tap out of the energy that already exists in the ecosystem and create value and by transforming it to a different form of energy that you're ready to utilize.
Okay, let's center on crude specifically, because let's come back home. and this will has to do with when you talk about NG exploitation, crude specifically. Do you think Nigeria is faring well in terms of crude oil? Looking at the current selling price of crude in Nigeria per barrel, that stands at $64.9, if I am very certain about that.
Correct. You're right.
Okay.
So basically, when you're looking at the crude, the up and down trajectory of the crude price is what we expect every now and then in the market. It happens. It's a cyclic market. Now, the question of whether we are very well positioned with this kind of crude prices is then a function of how diversified we are as a people in our economy. So, look at other nations. Look at people like UAE, for example, where we have Dubai. They use the same crude, diversified, and so when the cycle comes that there's low pricing, they're able to buffer those shocks. So the crude pricing, it's just what it is. It comes up and down, depending on different, market conditions, like demand. So when we had lockdown, there was a lower demand, and there is this upsurge in exploitation of renewable energy, and so there's a lot of, and there's also a drive to decarbonize the petroleum energy that we're seeing. So those forces work to reduce the pricing, and if a nation is not well positioned with other sources of income, then it would face the effects of low prices.
Okay, in the case of Nigeria, we're gradually dropping to where we have this 64 naira per barrel today,
$64.
dollar rather per barrel, and it's a major concern to the nation. But do you think the oil and gas, or probably crude, will have its face in the next shortest possible time, like the shortest possible future?
Yeah, so every industry, I'd like to say, cannot stay stagnant. It must transition. Let's start off where we started off back in the 70s. In the 70s, the journey was sell crude and get economic rents. So you sell crude and you get some money, from the crude that you're selling. But look at what has happened in the global space. We must not look at Nigeria in isolation. In the global space, we have now transitioned from volume-based economy for crude to value-based. So what I'm saying is that in the future, crude oil and gas is not going away. The crude prices, yes, may not go as high as it used to be, but that is why we need to transition with gas. That's where gas comes in. Because one, the characteristics of gas is such that you can't really store it for too long. As such, there's that tendency and drive to consciously get it somewhere, let it get around the entire economy. So you begin to see gas driving industrialization because it has to be sent somewhere. So there will be markets to pick it up and consume immediately, and those markets, of course, would lead to a kind of a industrial revolution in the economy. So it will transition. Oil and gas is not going away. The energy mix of the future still shows we have 70% oil and gas relevance, even in the energy demand of the future. But it would transition to a point where gas becomes the dominant factor, the industrializing factor. And that only at that point we will begin to reap the benefits of the oil and gas beyond just economic rents.
Okay, let's look at Nigeria back then. There was a time when we grew up, we used to see people doing petroleum engineering, like it was one of the very lucrative courses. And you find out people, once they say, this man works in the oil and gas sector, you'll be like, wow. But today, that picture, that feeling of this guy has to be this and that, well positioned, is gradually threatening. Would you say the oil and gas sector is really faring well?
Absolutely. I think we need to just re-engineer our minds. An engineer, whether it's petroleum or chemical or anything, is trained to solve energy problems. That's the way I look at it. We are trained to solve energy problems in whatever way you're looking at it. So the underlying principles are exactly the same. It doesn't mean that they are less relevant. It just means that they need to now adapt that same concept they had learned. Every engineer has, between year one and year two, the founding principles of engineering is exactly the same. So you have the general engineering courses. So those is now a case of self-learning, relearn, unlearn, and relearn. So when we now have this transition to other, energies, then it becomes not petroleum engineering, maybe energy engineering, because you now have to pick up on the fundamentals you have, and then go back and look at, okay, how do we apply these fundamental principles to solving problems in other energies, forms. As I said, energy doesn't, it's not created or destroyed. You only, you have a form now. You have petroleum, and then you have renewable. The energy equations are okay. The basic equations are the same. The application equations are different, and that's all they need to do. So there is a transition. In fact, Imperial College right now have stopped their petroleum, geology courses. They've stopped it completely. They're transitioning to energy geology because they feel that there must be a wider appreciation for energy and not just petroleum. It's a tunnel vision if you are just looking at petroleum. It's got to be energy because you follow. I can tell you for free. What is the paradigm shift now? In places like in Norway, a lot of the drive is towards hydrogen farming. So what they do is pick up the crude, do some sort of extraction of hydrogen from the maybe they take out the gas, which is methane, CH4. And what they do, they find a way to extract hydrogen. So once they do that, you find out that all the people working on those projects are now transitioning down to energy. It's energy. Hydrogen is energy. You understand? Yes. So that's the outlook right now. Petroleum engineering, yes, will transition. It won't stay the way it is. It's going to be energy driven.
All right, viewer, in case you're just joining us, I've been talking to Dr. Patrick Wisdom Enang. He's actually an oil and gas consultant and also member fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers and also chartered member of the Engineering Council UK. He is my guest on the studio today. But then let's go back because in every field of endeavor, definitely there is one challenge to the other. Let's get to find out what are the challenges or what could be the challenge affecting or disturbing the oil and gas or let's say the energy sector in Nigeria. What are the core challenges?
The core challenges is the regulatory framework.
Okay.
If you are, sort of abreast with what's going on, there's this drive for the, let's pass the PIB, the Petroleum Industry Bill.
Yes. Okay.
Without a framework that gives confidence to investors, that there's a clear written terms of engagement that does not have lacunas in them, then every investor is afraid of putting their money because they don't want to come into an uncertain ground. Without a framework that differentiates between an industry participant and a regulator, everybody's afraid. If you have a body like, say, NNPC, for example, they are regulators, they are also industry participants. The investor community is saying, let's have a clear divide to avoid any form, whether it's small, of conflict of interest. So that is what will give us. Then the next thing that we need to look at is attractiveness of our fiscal policy. You have to understand that oil has sprung up in different areas of the world, areas that we're not even talking about oil. They're now beginning to talk about oil. So we are competing with a lot of people. And some of them are very willing to give out very, very, low prices low fiscal policies to attract. So we have to, I'm not saying we should go for the lower fiscal policies, but we should have a way of carving out a niche of attraction for our investors. Those are the two major issues that I would like to, discuss about.
Okay, let's look at the country Nigeria today. crude is just oil is just one of the byproducts of crude. And as a country, we've not done that part of exploitation properly, because we understand that there are over 60,000 byproducts of crude, and the country is lacking behind. Don't you think this is also one of the major challenge of what the country is facing in the area of?
Yeah, so absolutely. But you have to understand that when I look at a challenge and the relevance of that
Yeah.
challenge, I'm looking at, do we have the imperatives to do them?
Okay.
Do you understand? Exploitation of certain byproducts has to do with imperatives. I'll give you an example. Gas is one. And there is that drive in recent times for the exploitation of gas. The government, the recent government, is very strong on providing the enablers. You see, what are these enablers? The infrastructure. You pipe gas from where it is in the Niger Delta region down to the center of the country, and then even up to the north where there's a lot of gas markets there, right? So then the financial enabler, then the reforms that is required to create sanctity of contracts. So that's one bit. What I was talking about, the low-hanging fruit was what I was talking about. Okay? Now, if you are now looking at byproducts, as I said, it requires certain enablers for it to come to pass. We have started with gas. The Honorable Minister just declared the decade of gas just a little while ago. And the imperatives to permit and, to allow us to, exploit gas in a commercial scale is being rolled out, including the Nigerian National Gas Expansion Program and the Auto Gas Program, which is simply taking gas from the ground, getting it all across the value chain, and bringing it to you and I. That the Gas Expansion Program is talking about how it actually gets to the consumers. Now, the other products you are talking about, we need an active refinery to be able to extract. You take the oil, you take out the top petroleum products that you use, the top ones we know, like the kerosene, the petrol, and the AGO. And at the end of the day, we have other byproducts that requires us to have a refinery. So when I was talking about the major problem, I was talking about what we can fix, okay, without actually waiting for some kind of more cumbersome imperatives. The PIB, the physical policies are within our hands. If we can fix that, then we can even get the more volumes, and then we can even potentially have more money to chase the other priorities. So there are concerns, but there are concerns that are more like, okay, if we have these imperatives, we will go after them.
Okay, if you talking about the PIB, and I think that bill was launched into 2017. I think I have checked through one or two parts of it. But do you think this has really favored is it private sector driven, or it centers more on the government and the government and the government? What's the access to the PIB to PPP?
So the PIB itself, right, has come a very long way more than that. I think 2008 sort of year, and it's been changing. Now, what has been changing is that over time, private sector participants have complained about certain clauses within the PIB that they're not comfortable with. And on the other hand, we have had an upsurge of the number of volumes of crude found globally. So the government knows that there's a competition coming up. And so every successive version, we see that intentional drive to bring better terms. But make no mistake, Nigeria still needs to balance the better terms with the fact that it needs money to finance its budget. Okay? So there's that intentional drive, including the recent one where they had different people pitching, and we haven't seen the version yet, the new version that will come out, sequel to the public hearing, that there's that, they've taken some of those comments on board. So there's that drive. But as I said, every country needs to have a balance. And here we need to balance, do we please private sector? give them low rates, low this, but also how do we fund our budgets? So it's a kind of a balance we need to strike. But there's that intentional drive, following all the kind of complaints or we need to improve on certain things. There's that drive that has gone on, and we've seen in subsequent versions of the bill that has been presented.
Okay, aside the oil and gas paraphernalia, I would like to understand. You have this passion for young people,
Correct.
and this has taken you just away from anything oil. You see how to provide or give your quota back to what God has given to you. Let's talk about that part of you. Perhaps someone out there has never heard about that.
Yes, so my drive is, I believe very much that there needs to be a very good mix between the experience of the older generation
Okay.
and the genius of the younger generation. But you see, when you're talking about, when you're talking about the younger generation, for you to create a complete story that appeals to them, there must be an example that this younger generation can relate to. If you're talking to a younger person and you say, be part of this great transition, and you point to an example of Mark Zuckerberg, they say, where is he? He's in the US now. He's not in Nigeria. If he was in Nigeria, he wouldn't be there. You see what I mean? So sometimes you have to sit back and say, well, I'm not the most ideal, but what can I do to help the young people send the narrative through to them that you can achieve what you want to achieve with some degree of dedication, with going out there to create value. And that's what drives me. So when I'm talking, I'm not only talking to the young people, I'm also trying to live up to the talk. Because when the time comes, they will look at the example. Okay, is it practical? How did he do it? How is it being done? So that's what drives my passion to engage the young people through different forums. I am, the pioneer board secretary of the, YEEC, the Young Entrepreneur Club in Africa. I am also involved very deeply in different, including the Nigerian Society of Engineers. I support young people's learning. I also involve myself in the IMECI, that's my professional Institution of Mechanical Engineers in the UK, for which I'm, via them I'm registered with the Engineering Council UK. So you find out that there needs to be that intentional getting in touch with the young people, but also living that those words you're speaking, because that is what would make them practically and holistically relate to you and what the message you're passing.
Okay, what are the programs lined up? What are the structural ways of reaching out to this set of people? Because definitely you can't get these people probably on, how will I put it? Like, what are the programs, the modalities of reaching out to these people? Is it via seminars, conferences? How do you reach out to them?
Yeah, fantastic. So I plan to do more seminars than what I've actually done. And more so, less technical, but more of a holistic nation kind of building seminars where I can practically talk to young people because they need to know. So what I do now is I have a lot of contributions. I put them out on LinkedIn and different professional, sites, and get good followers. A number of followers, kind of abreast with how I'm doing and what I'm doing and how they can be a part of it. But you see what I want to do, because there are very fantastic stories that I need to be told more often. For example, you come and you tell someone you want to achieve a PhD at 26. They say, no, it's not possible. What have you done? Why can't you do that? But I did, through God's grace and the support of people that were attracted to the value I added. They supported me, and I achieved it. You say, I want to be a member of the Engineering Council in UK, a chartered member at 30. They say it's not possible. You say you want to be the youngest fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers at 31. Someone says it's not possible, but I've achieved it through the support of God. So this message needs to go out because it will challenge our thinking and get our expectations and our mindset beyond this sort of ring fence that is being psychologically put on us that we can't do it. Oh no, you're too young. You're not too young to make a difference. So I intend to get more of talking out there in public, getting motivational sessions where I talk to the young people very directly and cite examples of my own self and give them a practical route. And now let me just touch on that. Now, one will be looking, my listeners will be listening saying, how is all this achieved? How is it possible? I have a simple formula. And I love to see another person replicate it. So I will tell people how to do it. Now, how do you do what I've done is simple. You create value. There is no way in the world that you go. There is no sort of person that you meet that is not attracted to value. They want to be part of a success story. You don't go there and create a liability for yourself. You have an opportunity to meet with someone who can change your life. You go there with some form of value. So what can I do for you that would make you XYZ, kind of create this kind of value for you? And in exchange, you will do this for me. Once you have that mindset that I'm actively going to create value, everybody will want to work with you. Everyone will want to give you the next pedestal to get up the ladder because they know you're a value-driven person. And secondly, you have to dare to make a difference. It is the people that are crazy enough to believe they can change the world that eventually do. So you have to just picture. There will be a lot of people. When I wanted to go for, to be considered as a fellow, I tendered my put my application. Everybody said it's not possible at your age. No, go back. When you are 40, you come. I said no. It's not going to be driven based on how many years. No, the narrative has changed. And let me set the narrative very clear. In Nigeria today, we must not have this sympathetic way of looking at the Nigerian factor. No, we have to migrate to be competitive with the international society. In international society, look at people they call CEOs, MDs, vice presidents of companies. They are in less than 40 of age. But here, you find out that before you become a director, you are already quite old. That narrative has to change. And I am the face of that emancipation. Changing that mindset starts with an exemplary sort of notion that you say, no, it's not, we're not going to do it this way, and this is how we're going to do it. And if I'm doing it this way, I have to show you an example of how we're going to achieve it.
All right, in case you're just joining us, I've been talking to Dr. Wisdom Patrick Enang, and he's my guest on the program, The Balance, today. And let's do a quick one. The technology and ICT is gradually taking center of mostly entrepreneurship and also the future. Let me ask this question. Is there any hope for the oil and gas?
Technology?
Yes.
Or are you saying technology replacing oil and gas?
Yes, technology replacing oil and gas. So I'm asking, is there a future for oil and gas?
Yes, there is a future for oil and gas. You see, you need to have a worldwide view of the oil and gas value chain for you to understand whether oil and gas is here to stay or not. I'll give you an example. If you look at all forms of energy, the easiest to exploit is the oil and gas, and the easiest and the cheapest to exploit is oil and gas. It's very easy. The ground produces it for you. Every other one, you have to. If you're looking at solar, it takes you longer to charge the panels than it takes for you to deplete the panels. So that's what you're always going to face. Now, talking about technology and answering your question, I don't see one replacing the other. I see them work together.
Okay.
That's my honest assessment. Because when you're talking about technology, the oil and gas, what are even the imperative? What is this clamor for? The clamor so far is not to remove oil and gas. I don't think any right-thinking person is saying, oil and gas is evil. That's not true. In the future, all statistics show that oil and gas remains very relevant. but maybe in a reduced manner in the future. However, everybody is crying for, some sort of responsible exploitation of energy. Don't exploit energy and then pollute the entire environment, and then everybody is having issues with the global warming is taking effect, and the environment is getting warmer. What they want is a responsible exploitation of energy. Now, what is this responsible exploitation of energy? It's a move away. It's a paradigm shift from where we used to have, traditional exploitation of crude oil, oil and gas, sort of energy, to where we now begin to apply technology. We are applying technology. Decarbonization is one of them, where we are applying the technology to make sure that the carbon footprint of our oil is reduced. We're also applying technology when it comes to the utilization, because we want to optimize energy consumption such that we reduce and minimize the amount of carbon we put into the air as a result of using this, the energy. So we find out that there's a kind of interplay. It won't be reducing. In fact, you cannot use, when you're talking about technology, you're talking about maybe warming houses in the US, in the UK. It's not going to be technology that will do. There's still going to be some sort of, thermal energy, or maybe the oil and gas, but it just needs to be exploited more responsibly. That is where I see the future go. All of them will have an interplay.
Okay. All right. Before we call it a wrap, I would like you to send the word to young people. These are your, would I say, these are the people you actually magneted to see their future change. You see a better life for them. I would like you to send a message to this class of people.
Yes, my message to the young people is very simple. Before now, the people making exploits in the oil and gas were regarded, there was kind of an aristocratic structure. Before you made exploit, you needed to come in, do some years, become a manager, become a director, and then you become relevant. I will tell you, there's an active disruption of such, kind of structure. Believe that you can get in there, carve out a niche, learn very quickly, and make a difference. We need a lot of people making difference in the industry. It's not going to be, business as usual, where we just have a very, a set of people, a unique set of people that are operating and are making exploit. The young people, we need more of them. We need more of these, kind of ideas. The ideas that will be, kind of transformational in the industry. That's what we need. So I would actually, sort of crave the indulgence of every young person to get relevant. The energy problem cannot be solved by one person. And we need that genius, the interplay between the genius of the young and the experience of the old to solve the energy challenges and have a commercially viable exploitation of energy in Nigeria.
Okay. All right, viewer, it's been a very wonderful and engaging session with Dr. Wisdom Enang. He is an academic doctor and also doubles as the oil and gas consultant. Very recently conferred as member chartered of engineers, Akwa Ibom, and also member of Engineering Council UK. He is my guest on the program, The Balance. Remember, on this program, you can be part of the sponsorship. Our phone numbers are running through the screen, and you can send us a direct email to j247tv@gmail.com. And you can be part of this program by way of sponsorship or be our partners. We will greatly appreciate you coming our way to be a part of the program. Remember that a man is great not because he hasn't failed, but a man is great because failure hasn't stopped him. And this is where I'll be signing out today. And I want to thank you so much for being my guest on the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's very wonderful, and we'd love to host you again. All right, viewers. Now we'll call it bye-bye. Thank you very much, and look at you in our next edition.
Thank you.